Well, everybody, I want to welcome you to the Octane Media Plymouth Rock TV studios at the Setting the Space outlet at the Kingston Collection. Boy, what a great opportunity this is for us to really get the message out about all sorts of cool things. You meet some very interesting people along the way, but it also gives me the opportunity to bring some of my close and dear friends into the picture. And this handsome guy right here, Vic Nordberg, is a good friend of mine, and he's not just on because he's a good friend, but he's doing something pretty remarkable with his church in Kingston. It's the Vineyard Church, correct?
Correct.
And a few years back, I was invited by this young man to come and check out an art show that they were doing, a demonstration about the crucifixion and the resurrection during Holy Week, Lent, and it was really cool. But I was going because I wanted to support my friend, but when I went in, Vic, I was almost knocked to my knees and just how impressed and incredible and touching and moving it all was. And it went from something where I was doing somebody a favor to somebody doing me a favor. And that's what that was. And here we are approaching this year, and I'm gonna do everything I can to get as many people over there as possible. And I missed last year, so I don't know how much the news didn't change. No spoiler alerts. It's still Holy Week went down the same way it went down.
Yes.
But so first off, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me here. It's an honor.
I want to first of all say you're not just an artist. You do other things. You're a father, husband. You're in business. You're like the outdoors. You like adventure stuff. What got you into art in the first place? Like, how did you get there?
Again, thank you for having me on. I love what you said about coming in and seeing the exhibit. As far as the art goes, I started doing art in grade school. There was just a few of us guys. We used to draw, anything from cars to animals to cartoons, whatever it was, just playing around. And I just enjoyed it, and the progression happened. I had really good art teachers in South New Jersey, and I enjoyed it, and it was pretty easy for me, and I guess I had some skill at it. And
did you ever think it was going to be a career or anything like that?
Never thought it would be a career. It's always been a hobby
and
something that I'm passionate about. I have a few hobbies, as you mentioned, and it's something that's just inside of me. I get motivated, and it's a great release also. And you can look at something and be motivated by something, whatever it is that motivates you. Maybe you want to do a family portrait or of your dog or something. Whatever it is that you're passionate about is what we do. And this is just one of the things I'm passionate about.
Well, I mean, you can definitely tell and again, I think you know somebody, right? And then my wife and I go in and we're like, Vic did this? What the heck? This is incredible. And we were so super impressed. And because you're a friend, and cool to see another side of their life that is a feather in your cap, if that's the right term. Then the overall event itself was amazing, and obviously the subject matter for this particular event is spiritually based and in your following of Jesus, and then the church certainly. This is Holy Week is the Super Bowl Sunday of being a Christian, right? So how did that happen? Like, did you do the piece first? I don't even know where to start. Tell me about how this all. What's the genesis? Pardon the pun. Of how this all came to be.
So about 10 years ago, maybe 9 years ago, the senior pastor of the Vineyard Church in Kingston, his wife Nancy Andreessen, had this idea. And it's similar to what the Catholics have as Stations of the Cross. She said, I have this idea, and I want to basically have verses of the Bible interpreted in writings and in artwork by local artists, and I want to display that during the week of Holy Week, between Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday. And I want to invite people in, and I want to have the artists interpret these verses. What do you think? I'm like, well, that sounds like a fantastic idea. Little did I know that she was going, you're going to be in charge of this, or you're going to be one of the people in charge of this. And, when you pray about things, God has kind of this sense of humor. It's like, God, do you really want me to do this? And it's kind of like, I felt like God saying, really, like, what do you think? Is that really a serious question? Right. Of course you're going to do this, and trust me. And we did this in faith, and we started small, And the response is one of the best things when you see people come in with very little expectations to this exhibit. My wife dragged me here. My mom and dad brought me here. I don't know what to expect. We just saw the sign and we were in the neighborhood, or somebody invited me. And if I had a funny caption for this exhibit, it might be called Goosebumps. Because people go in with little expectations and they come out teary-eyed, they come out filled. And I like to say that it's haunting and stirring. But you go in one way and you definitely come out differently.
And I think with the subject matter and obviously everybody's search for answers and why we're here and this, spinning on this big rock in space and what we're just dealing with day-to-day issues, and you turn to God and you're praying and understanding, and the whole idea is getting to know God. So in a circumstance of which Jesus, the Son of God, God in human flesh, comes here and goes through what he goes through, for us to take that as a lesson, an experience that we learn from, it is obviously something that a lot of people just naturally kind of through nature, like a river flowing, we get there, right? So I'm absolutely certain that some people will walk through that and maybe not be touched or even understand it, because if you have no basis of understanding with that, it could be quite alarming and shocking, right? I mean, it's a crucifixion of a human being.
Yes.
It's tough thing. It's tough subject matter.
There are so many different perspectives to see this exhibit with. You could come in as a non-believer, and there isn't going to be anybody trying to preach you, convert you, talk to you. This is you come in, and it's like you're going through an art gallery and an exhibit that's a little bit immersive.
Right.
And nobody's going to try and convert you or take your name and number and email and call you. This is you come in, you read the writings, the lighting is there, there's music that we have that is
haunting.
Absolutely haunting and stirring as well.
Haunting, I don't know if it's the right word.
It moves you.
You're right,
It's appropriate
Yeah.
for the scenes that you're looking at. But yeah, you can come in as a non-believer, you can come in as a Catholic, you can come in as a Jew, you can come in as somebody as an atheist. We had one person come in, and it's funny, not funny, who signed in our book and wrote the word, signed in as Lucifer, which they were not a believer, to say the least,
right.
And walked out halfway through the exhibit saying, I can't go through this. I can't do this. This is not for me. And they were being attacked spiritually in the good way. But this exhibit will move you. It will speak to you. Nobody from the exhibit is going to be bothering you. You come in and you just enjoy it at your pace, and I promise you, you will get something out of it. But I have never had anybody say, I regret coming to this. I never had anybody say, this was a waste of time. And it is growing and growing and growing, and people are coming from out of state to see this. Social media is certainly helping spread the word. And all we want people to do is just go through and experience it and have an open mind about it. And then what happens with you, happens with you. And if you want to talk, people will be there to answer your questions. There's hors d'oeuvres and appetizers and drinks and stuff like that. But it's just a great little exhibit that's local, by local artists. And we're enjoying it. And it's a really feel-good experience.
So we could talk for hours about the subject matter, because I'm a big believer, obviously, in Christianity for one. That's goes without saying, but the idea of a spiritual warfare and like things happening, and you mentioned, someone coming through there, and I've heard this with Jonathan Rumi. We talked a little bit yesterday about his acting, playing the role of Jesus in the hit series The Chosen.
Love it.
Other actors or projects that involve the subject and doing something important, and it could even be something that has nothing to do with movies or art or whatever, that when you're onto something, the devil takes notice. They're
and then
gonna
targets
attack.
you.
Right. So you saying something, where somebody comes in and scribbles down a name, you almost have to be prepared for things like that. If you're doing something important, you know, and I don't know if there's other stories or other things there.
I have
but
one for you.
Sure, let me hear it.
Almost a year ago, I had surgery from here to here on my wrist.
Yeah.
And during the exhibit, it was right before the exhibit I had the surgery, last year, I was saying, you know, there's always challenges about this, but if God is for us, who can be against us?
Yeah.
And so in that moment, I was like, you know what, if I'm being, and I was being attacked for something else. And I said, you know what, if these opposing forces, shall we say, are going to come after me and attack me, bring it, because I got God on my side. Within 20 minutes of me saying that out loud, I fell face first down 2 steps off the soundstage. They were unusually high steps, but I never fall. And I protected the ugly face from getting uglier with my hands and completely dehisced this wound and ripped it wide open. And I had to have somebody transport me up to Boston to have it resutured. And I took video of it. But that, and I said, you know what, that's fine. It's to be expected. Excuse me, that, you know, when you are doing a project like this for God and for people, like you just said, you are basically saying, I'm on the radar to be attacked and to have things thrown at me. And it didn't alter our course, and it didn't make me question my faith or anything like that. It's like, all right, we'll go get some stitches and fix that back up. The video would be rated R because of how gruesome it was, like hamburger meat sticking out. But it was absolutely what I would say spiritual warfare, being attacked for that exhibit and saying, listen, God's on my side. Bring it. You want to attack me? Come on, let's go. Let's battle.
Right.
But I won't say that this year.
Yeah.
But my hand is completely healed.
Right. Yeah. Good.
But it was something. But you know, we're talking about Christianity, and a little bit about this church is we would call it a non-denominational church. It's not Catholic. It's not synagogue. It's non-denominational. We believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit. And and I'll tell you something. Personally, it has gotten me through so much in life. It has given me the greatest perspective. It has helped me through so much. And I just love to help others. And this exhibit is just about showing people a glimpse of what God did for us out of His love, because of His love for us. And through His mercy and grace, He sent His Son to pay for what we have done and what we will do, so that we don't have to pay that sin and that fine and that go to that cross and have to suffer and endure and be judged. And so our belief is that God gave us Jesus so that we can be forgiven, that we can be redeemed, and all we have to do is knock on that door and say, hey, talk to me, God. Let me figure out what's going on here. Help me understand. I want to be different. I want to be better, and I want to make sure I've got that death insurance. And I want a better life, and I want peace in my heart, and I want happiness and joy. And regardless of which, if you want to choose a different denomination or whatever, it's important to have a different perspective about we're not just here for a finite amount of time and then we are going to become ashes to ashes, dust to dust. But there's something greater, something bigger. And I really think that this exhibit is a great opportunity for people to get a visual representation of what happened during that week historically in Jesus' time, done by local artists, as well as verses and the music and the lighting. And you never know what's going to happen when you come through that exhibit. You never know how it's going to impact you. And you are a perfect example. And you are not alone. You're one of, probably well over 1,000 at this point that have come through and had a different experience than perhaps what you were expecting. And that's what we're trying to do, is get this message out and invite people to come down, take 15 minutes out of your time, out of your day, out of your week. And I promise that they will leave differently, and they will appreciate it, and they will not regret it.
It's amazing. to hear you speak like that. And I think that Lent, the season of Lent, and leading up to Easter weekend and Good Friday, is a reminder. Oftentimes we focus on the crucifixion, but it's about the resurrection. And how Easter is a happy time, right?
Yes.
A rebirth and everything else. And I'll even, it's not a contradiction or it's not even a disagreement, but I don't think that there's no such thing as death. There's transformations and there's movement. And if any, we'll never know in the great mystery of why we're here, what our purpose is, or why we're plopped on this earth. But we can say, hey, you know what? God did send his son to come here and experience everything that you could experience as a human being. And when you're suffering, Jesus was humiliated and betrayed and wrongly accused and went through pain and lived in poverty, and the list goes on. And there's nothing he didn't experience that we can say, well, I did that and Jesus didn't have to go through that, right? Maybe Jesus's iPhone battery didn't run out. We complain about things like that. But point being is that having the opportunity to reflect on that and to see it through art, and forget about the subject matter being Christian, any type of art that you go to in any type of museum will be a reflection of some sort of deeper emotional connection. And so going back to, you go through Rome and you're seeing art, commissioned artists like Da Vinci and Michelangelo, and their works of art are appreciated by people across all faiths, across all cultures, because it's art, beautiful, right?
Absolutely.
And it comes from somewhere. And if you believe and think you had checked out Brian Fox, talked to him, and he
amazing
artist, and humble to a degree that really was a teaching moment for me, because I would so sing his praises, and he'd be like, look, I'm just the vessel here.
Right.
God is behind all this.
Absolutely.
And for me, I think I'm trying to do a better job to accept be more thankful for what I'm good at, and not be so I'm the worst, I don't do anything well, but also appreciate what other people do that is interesting and good, and sing their praises as well. And for me to hear a song, a spiritual song, or any type of music for that matter, seeing a piece of art where somebody's passion get poured into it, and it's you can tell it's not a kindergarten picture on a refrigerator, it's something really meaningful and impactful. In your stuff, again, I could have easily said, well, that's a nice piece of art, but then I said, there's another side to this guy. There's a whole other dimension of where he's going in his heart to create what he created. And tell me about that piece that you did. And I don't know if are you doing new ones for this? Because again, I'm going back of 2 years.
Sure.
Here,
so we some of us have done multiple pieces over the years. I think we're going on 9 years of doing this. And one of the unique pieces, Divine Inspiration, I purchased a shower glass door from an elderly woman off of the internet. And she said it was frosted glass. And by the time I got done cleaning it with everything from gasoline to acetone to soap and water and bleach, it was perfectly crystal clear. It wasn't frosted. It was just 30 years of soap scum.
Oh, God.
So I used stained glass paint to paint on that shower glass door. And I didn't quite know how it was going to come out, but I had done a rough sketch, and it was going to be mounted on a 7-foot cross, relieved, and in the cross would be the spikes that went through Jesus's wrists and feet. I got a real crown of thorns, of acacia thorns, and I have my own blood on them because they are ridiculously strong, pointy, sharp. Can't even imagine. So there's a real crown of thorns on that cross, and I relieved the shower door, and I painted on the shower door with stained glass paint, and I will tell you something, and it's Jesus on the cross. I got done, and I don't like to draw faces. The emotion that I personally got out of that seeing that artwork. It's like I didn't even do it. It moves me. And as an artist, I'm my own worst critic, and I don't like much of the artwork that I do. I'm very critical of it. I can find the flaws, I can see them, and they just scream out to me, look at where you didn't do that exactly the way you envisioned it, or whatever. Bob Ross, the famous painter, used to call them happy mistakes. But for me, it's very self-critical. But anyway, this piece, I just look at it, and every time it moves me. And I have some other pieces too. There's another one in there that I would love people to come see. And it's so powerful. And there are many powerful pieces that I could talk about. Every artist that has in there, and there are famous artists. There's a local famous artist, Paul Creamy, Crimi, Creamy, and he's got his artwork in galleries like Brian Fox. These are artists who have chosen to participate and have chosen to utilize their religious pieces. So it's not just Vic Nordberg's artwork. There's multiple artists in there, and they all tie together as you walk through this exhibit. But I think that we're just motivated and inspired for multiple reasons. But God has a purpose for this exhibit, and I'm just one piece of the puzzle for it, and it's working out beautifully, and I hope to see you there again this year.
Well, of course, and again, I'll go back to that particular day when I went. I woke up, I wasn't even 100% sure I knew I was going that day. It was just like, it was part of my day, and then years later, I'm still thinking about it, and I'm having you on the show, and that's a cool thing, like to find something like that out. Then we look forward to it. And last year I was in Croatia, I think, last year, where I think I mentioned I saw one of the thorns from Jesus' crown that they claim is certified as being original, but you never can tell. But I think that was one of the reasons why we weren't able to come. But there's so many really fun and interesting things to do if you go out and check this out. And this particular one, the Vineyard Church is in Kingston, right off of exit. I don't even know the exits.
The old exit 9.
The old exit 9. What is it? 16, 17?
Might be 18.
Where the
I think
old,
it's 18.
I'll go back even further. The old Howard Johnson's used to be. Now it's the Cancun restaurant. But that was a Howard Johnson's, Vic, if you can even go back that far.
But it's literally 30 seconds off the highway.
Yeah, really close. You guys do an amazing job with that. Has there been any other pieces that you've seen? I remember just seeing was the pieces of silver, just on a tray or something like that, which was the coins that were used that Judas was paid for betrayal. And you just saw it, and you knew exactly what that was, and it was, wow, such a price for your soul and your betrayal.
There's a couple artists that come to mind that jump right out. Kathy Akampora and Bill Whitehill. And I could go on and on. Kathy Dugan, Elsie Goldstein. There's so many names to go through that are local artists that many of you may have already heard of or seen some of their artwork. Bill Whitehill is an artist who does work for Life is Good. And his artwork that's for this exhibit is actually done on roofing tar paper. So it's about 3 foot wide, has texture in black, and they're giant pieces. And the pieces that he does are just phenomenal. And Kathy Akampora, the things that she's done over the years, she actually put a veil in front of her painting. If you remember in Scripture where it says, when Jesus passed away, the veil was torn. And when you go through this, we have a life-size tomb that we created out of insulation. It's just remarkable. And people email and say, "Hey, how can I participate as an artist?" And of course we have to turn some art away. There's a gentleman that did a piece this year, Bill Post, who I wouldn't even call him an artist per se, but he's a metal worker. And he did about a 5-foot cross out of stainless steel. And each commandment he relieved and made out of metal and attached it to the cross. And while it's not going to be part of that inner exhibit, it'll be part of the exhibit in the lobby. And his thoughts were, I don't know if anybody's going to like this. I hope somebody likes it, because if not, it's just going to end up in the dump. everybody that has seen this piece is just absolutely blown away. But tell me that's not an inspiration from God.
Right, and I think that you bring up a good point. You use the shower door glass and the tar paper and all these things, and the way God creates us is through materials. His messages come from materials that we would never expect. He's going to use so many different amazing things to talk to us that we would never expect. Coins and whatever it would be. Again, going back to the mysteries of Lent and understanding, and people get frustrated that they can't hear God speak. God, where are you? And you really have to almost transform your whole spiritual awareness to even try and hear the messaging, and it's not going to come to you in the form of somebody walking up off the street and saying, "Hey Vic, my name's Jesus, I just want to talk to you," because you wouldn't believe it, in a million years, and quite frankly probably annoy you. Something like that would happen. But the messaging is going to come through in the ways in nature, and an animal, in your family, something in a shower door glass piece, whatever you were inspired at that minute. And it's just an incredible, art is just an incredible means to do that. And there might even be deeper meanings that you don't even know in your own work. That is like the color of the paint could have been named after a saint or some sort of, you know what I mean? There's so much deeper layers of these things that are worth exploring. But anyway, in the Lenten time, we're in this, Jesus went to the desert in the wilderness, lost, and really left alone to the subject of the devil tempting him and talking to him in his ear, and him knowing that what was to come as a human being was pretty frightening. And you get a lot of that, and again, I've been a Christian my whole life, but there was a lot of times where it was just like phoning it in, and it's Easter and there's the cross, and you don't think about what the emotional toll of even reading it in the Bible. You don't hear it, you don't smell it, you don't hear the sounds and the feeling in the air, and that particular exhibit was as close to being there as I could imagine, in a great way. So I do encourage everybody to check this out, and got some materials here. Journey to the Cross. People can check this out. I'll make sure to put this up. Put a website up and everything for information
and
there.
The hours are convenient, where it's after work from 4 to 9 p.m., 4 to 8 p.m. rather, during the week, and then on Saturday from 9 till 12. But talking about the individual artwork and something, there's going to be, if you walk through, there's going to be one particular piece that's going to trigger something about either something you're going through, or something that's going on with a family member, or something that's on your heart that's weighing on you. There's going to be something that will affect every single person differently. And there's going to be something that just goes, it's going to stop you in your tracks, whatever that piece may be, and it's going to speak to you. And whether it's about you finding forgiveness, or giving forgiveness, or praying for a loved one who's in a situation, or maybe you're going through something at work, or maybe you and your significant other are having a difficult time coping with something, or maybe you're having a problem with one of your children. There's going to be some message to you that you will walk out of there with that's going to resonate with you, that only the way that this art and this message can do. It's not like it's just walking into the Louvre and I'm going to go look at this particular piece by a famous artist in the middle of August, let's say, and I'm going to see that it's a beautiful piece. But you're coming into a church, into a house of God, into a message that is interpreted by artists, and the most important message as Christians, that God gave His Son for us, and that not only was He crucified, but the most important thing, as you mentioned earlier, 3 days later, He rose from the grave and conquered death for us, and we have that hope. And I'll tell you something, that hope gets me through every day, every week, every year, and I am such a happier person with that hope. But there's a joy that this exhibit gives to you also. It's not about feeling oppressed or feeling sad or guilty, but you walk out of there and you are just elevated in a way. You've got like just this, the goosebumps, the spirit, the energy, the enthusiasm, the vibration. There's something that's going to emote upon you that this exhibit will give you. That emotion will just carry through, and I hope that it resonates with people when they come see it.
You said something interesting right there about like going to the Louvre in France and seeing, let's say, the Mona Lisa, and you have an expectation going into that, and when you get there, there are just thousands of people standing around it. You can't get anywhere near it. The painting itself, I think, is really tiny. I felt that way when I saw the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia. Like, just it was like nothing that I had pictured. And I don't know if I had some sort of special, I went at the right time, or if I had special VIP treatment, but if I recall, we kind of like almost walked through there where you kept people out and you would let people in a few at a time, so you didn't feel, you could have
crowds.
that loneliness.
Yes,
so even if there were people, because a lot of people will come, they're kind of tapered in.
Correct.
Right, and that was. I wanted you to say, no, you had VIP access, Chuck.
Yes, of course you did. That was a given.
Yeah,
there's no two ways about that.
Showing for me, but
the spotlights,
that
the
was
ropes,
touching.
the limousine for you, that was all obvious, right?
That was, well, that's
the champagne.
Everywhere I go, that's how I travel.
Yes.
So, you know, I would only expect the same.
But you raise a good point.
Yeah.
You have the ability to go through at your own speed without a crowd so that you have time to reflect. And then there are seats in the middle so that you can just sit back and you can take a moment. And you can just observe it. You can just listen. You can pray. You can meditate. And
yeah, the quiet and the stillness is important in something like that. You miss that when you're at a real public place. And a lot of not that any other people's reactions would deter you necessarily, but it could. Like, I mean, if you just noticing somebody else, wow, they're reacting very strongly to that. That takes me out of my ability to react how I want to react to something.
Correct.
And I don't know. I thought
a distraction.
It's a hard thing to convey and even explain what.
Right.
But we talked about that. My wife
Other people aren't distracted, and there's so many different pieces that are going to have different effects on people. There is a piece in there where it's a picture. It's a painting of Jesus's eye, and you can see the thorns, and he's black and blued and bloodied, and in the reflection of Jesus' eye, you see the good thief who is also on the cross, who recognizes that this is the Son of God. And in Luke, where the verse is written on the frame of this piece of art, it says, "Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Mm. And Jesus says, "Assuredly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." But when you start looking at this piece and around the good thief, when you look closer, and he's saying, "Lord, remember me," there's actually a mirror around the good thief.
Spoiler alert.
And you see yourself looking in Jesus, and you read that and it says, "Lord, remember me." Mm. And it's just, there are things like that throughout the exhibit that just, you want people to come in and experience. But you're right, you have to be by yourself and able to focus, have the ability to focus and not have distractions.
Yeah.
So we make sure that people have the spacing and the time to go through at your own speed.
Well, it's beautiful, Vic, and I appreciate you coming over here and talking about this and letting our audience know how to experience this and make the most of Holy Week. And it was just, let's face it, it was good to see you.
You know, I got to say also, this started out with Nancy Andreessen, the senior pastor's wife, starting this with this idea and putting this sort of kind of partially on my shoulders. And I have to just say, her son, who's now the senior pastor, Seth Andreessen, and his wife, Levitt Andreessen, they've really embraced this project and this exhibit. And without this church and without them, it wouldn't happen. So big kudos and thanks to them. And of course, you know, they ask me if I participate. And when it comes to artists, I'm sure Brian Fox would agree, it's like herding cats when you get artists together. But it's interesting because they are all motivated for this exhibit. So I hope that this motivates some people to come down. And one thing I always say is, look, it doesn't matter how many people come through the door, but if we can have an impact on one person and it changes that one person's life, the whole thing is worth it.
Yeah.
That's the message.
Vic Nordberg. The event is Journey to the Cross at the Vineyard Church in Kingston, right next to, I hate to even say the Cancun restaurant off of Exit, whatever it was. We'll put up the address so people can go check this out. Just don't go when I'm going because I want to have the whole place to myself.
Well, you get the VIP treatment anyway.
Okay, that's perfect. Vic, thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks.
All right.
God bless.
Awesome.